Sorry,
Are
I didn't
we
mean to interrupt. YouTube is coming up.
okay? Great. No, so we're okay to go.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the City of Lake Worth Beach agenda meeting for April 11th, 2025. Can we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Betty Rush,
Here.
Vice Mayor Sarah Maliga,
Present.
Commissioner Christopher McVoy,
Here.
Commissioner Mimi May,
Here.
Commissioner Anthony Segrich.
Present.
Thank you very much. Jamie, Mr. Brown, I see that we have some staff members here, and I think it would be prudent to let them go, their items be done first so that we can get them back to work. How does that sound?
That is all up to you. Sounds good.
Well, then I declare it. Okay, so Mr. Liberty, what brings you to us this morning?
Good morning, and thank you for the invitation. We do have one item for the electric utility, and that's related to the staffing requirements to fulfill our obligations under the grant. The grant is the $23+ million grant, referred to as the Grid Improvement Grant or GRIP grant under the Department of Energy. That has a requirement for matching funds, but it also has a requirement for the project plan, which included additional staff. We have held off to this point on moving ahead pending the reviews that were ordered and conducted by the current administration to remove certain types of activities that the current administration does not support. That review has been completed. We do have correspondence from DOE basically saying we're good to go, and we've made our adjustments. So we're looking to get going on the project. There are a number of positions. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So there are a number of positions that we are ready to post. The job descriptions have been prepared, and we're ready to move ahead with those positions. So the budget amendment that you're being asked to approve relates to those additional positions and the funding of those positions.
Okay. So does anyone have any questions for Mr. Liberty?
I do.
Okay, Sarah?
Thank you. Mr. Liberty, I shared via email with you, and Mr. Brown and Mr. Troy, and I think I included Yannick, that I'm a little nervous about this and moving forward with this grant, given the current situation in the federal government and grants that are being paused. And we have not been funded on this at all, correct?
That's correct. We when we first applied for the grant, we had, and as we went to the discussions with the DOE, it indicated that we would get the money up front. Basically, we would get $23 million up front, and then we would draw down from that amount. We would, of course, have to document those drawdowns to a process that's very similar to the FEMA grant process for storm work. Very similar type of process, intensive documentation, so that you wouldn't have the money clawed back. That changed by the time we got to the finish line. I say the finish line over a year ago, when they said, okay, all's in order, but by the way, we're not going to front you the money. You're going to have to apply to be reimbursed. And they set up a process of rapid reimbursement. That's my terminology, not theirs, where you could apply as frequently, I believe, as bi-weekly or certainly monthly with your expenses that month, and then be reimbursed. So that created a situation for us because it required more working capital on our part to actually, float the money as we're waiting for the payments. So we have not been funded in the sense that no money has been transferred to us, and the money that we spend, which is eligible for reimbursement on a match, we will have to be applying for as we go through the 5-year process of the grant.
Well, that was why I started to speak before, because I had the same concerns. How confident are you that we're going to get reimbursed?
And is there any recourse with us if we do go out and do all this work or go out and bond, and then the federal government just canceled millions of dollars in contracts with farm workers. So, I'm kind of concerned.
I think we all are.
Yeah, I was too, and remain somewhat concerned, although not alarmed. So we requested additional information from the government, and we've received correspondence from the people that we interact with that we have satisfied all of the requests, that they have satisfied the request of the administration with respect to the changes that needed to be made. The amount that we were being funded has not been reduced. and they've given us, encouraged us to go ahead and start work, move ahead. So, other than a letter from the guy in the Oval Office, I don't know what other assurances we can give you, but we have, all of what we believe, all of the requisite, okays from the government to go ahead and begin work.
Mr. McVoy?
Madam Mayor,
yeah.
if I may.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry. Can you say it again?
So we reached
No,
out to
Yannick is speaking.
we reached out to DOE via email with the concerns.
I
that's being-
apologize, Yannick. Can you just state your name for the record?
I'm having some difficulty following the conversation. I think the signal's dropping
Yeah.
out.
Yannick and
Yannick-
I with Yannick with finance. For the record. So I was saying, like, I had the same concerns when we received the letters from the administration. So we reached out to DOE via email to confirm that we are okay to proceed with the projects. And they responded that the grant was never suspended or anything. They only suspended specific activities, which we took out from our projects. And we have an email confirmation, which I will forward to you guys, basically stating that we're okay to proceed. If that
Yeah,
helps.
Thank you. Mr. Liberty, I see your hand, Chris. Mr. Liberty, so if we don't do this, then we will be ineligible this is what we have to do in order to get the grant.
Correct. We have to follow their procedures in order to get the grant, and a number of the positions that we're adding are related to actually executing physical work, but there are positions that we're adding for the purpose of documentation that is required by the federal government in order to get our grant payments as we go through the process. So it is documentation intensive to the nth degree in the level of detail that they want daily in our sheets, which describe the exact nature of the work that's being done each day by each person who's being charged. And it includes photographic evidence and things like that. So it's a lot of work to be done over the 5 years so that they can issue the payments.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McVoy?
Two things. One, question for Mr. Liberty. Would it be accurate to say that although there's definitely, I had that impression before too, that there's a quite high standard of documentation that, makes more work, but would it be accurate to say that the grant, at least at a 50% match and maybe more, did incorporate paying for that staff to do that documentation? Is that accurate?
Yes, it did. We built a project organization chart together with all of the costs associated and actually including benefits. The typical 35%
Right.
cost per employee.
Right.
That was all built into the cost structure. And
Right.
we've actually used counsel and our own finance staff and a lot of discussions back and forth to be very specific about what we can include and what we cannot include in terms of fringes, whether vehicle purchases cannot be in there, but vehicle leases can be. So we shifted, for example, from vehicle purchase to vehicle leases. Well, a lot of detail we went through to be very, very specific, but that was all handled within the $23+ million that was in the original budget. That was all contemplated to be in there.
Okay, and the other question is a very straightforward one to either you or Mr. Yannick, is when was the most recent, approximately, not to the day, but most recent communication with DOE giving us assurance that we're good to go?
About 2 days ago.
All right, so I guess given that and given Mr. Liberty's, personal hunch from having dealt with them for quite a while with, I'm guessing, numerous interactions, that he's confident that this is going to work and that it was very recent, I would say let's go ahead. I understand the concern and the worry, but I think the 23 million could help us out.
I think
Well,
so.
I think your question is a very good one. I reach across to my friend in finance, Yannick, and Yannick, let's just confirm that so that I'm not overly enthusiastic. Do you concur with that statement as well, Yannick?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, both of you. If there's nothing else on the agenda, You're welcome to stay, but you might have something more productive to do.
Actually, Madam Mayor, I had one more thing on there,
Okay, what,
which was the audit firm that we're switching to a new audit firm
yep,
to complete the fiscal year 2024. So our current auditors reached out to us beginning of May, basically telling us that they won't be able to start as this month in order to meet the required Florida statute deadline of June 30th. So as a result, we had to move swiftly and contract a new auditing firm that's that's qualified to do this audit in a timely fashion. As a matter of fact, one of the principals with this new auditors was the lead manager with our current auditors where he resigned, which is part of the reason why they caused a lot of delays, was because a lot of the managers resigned from that firm, and a lot of those managers were on our jobs. So this we had to make this decision because again we were ready for them, but they were not because they had delays with other clients. And so this was needed in order for us to be in compliance with the Auditor General.
and we very much appreciate that fact.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you for staying on
Seeing
top
none.
of this.
Okay, thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
Thank you.
Yannick, have a wonderful weekend.
Have a good one.
Great.
Bye-bye.
I see Mr. Waters has joined us.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. William Waters, Community Sustainability Director. We have 3 items before you on Tuesday. One of them is a resolution to move forward with placing some lot clearing expenses that have not been recouped on the tax roll for FY26. You will be seeing a companion item later this year when we bring back when we bring these up quarterly, and they may include expenses for lot clearing.
Did he stop talking?
No, I haven't stopped talking.
He's
I do have
growling.
my dogs here too, because they are due vaccines today at 10:30 and they're growling. So I apologize.
That's all right. You're
Can
cute.
you hear me, Commissioner May?
I can now, thank you. I
we
can.
can
I
hear
couldn't for a
you.
minute.
We thought there was public dissent to what you were
No,
proposing.
I have unhappy
Chris.
puppies because I only have two toys here, and there's
Aw.
2 of them need 3. So I'm sorry. Their babysitters are also dealing with customers in the front. But anyway, so we have the resolution for the lot clearings coming before you. There will be a companion piece coming later in June and July. That'll be 2 parts before we can actually place those expenses on the tax rolls. Under the statute, we can place expenses incurred for lot clearings, board and secures, and demolitions. We have very few board and secures and no demolitions this year. So likely it's just going to be a series of lot clearings, and then maybe a couple or 1 or 2 board and secures, which we'll see later. And then those are placed on the tax record, and as those taxes are paid, we are recouped and the money is sent to finance once those taxes and assessments and these collection things are paid. So that's the process for that little piece. The other 2 items involve our work toward mobility. All of you have been on the commission except for Commissioner Cedrich when we approved the what I call part 1 of our mobility plan. And that was a 2-year process to put together a mobility/safety plan for the city. It was completed last year. It went before you as a first reading because it is not only an ordinance, but also an amendment to our comprehensive plan. We received some comments from various entities. We made a little bit of an adjustment to part of it in response to the county. It went to the state for review and came back. And then this is the last part of adopting that part 1. And that included an overall assessment of the city's mobility potential, the safety concerns, especially with intersections, lighting, crosswalks, how to enhance mobility, what types of mobility are out there, what types of grants may be available. And there was also a list of projects that had some priority associated in them. That's all included in part 1. So this is the final step to get part 1 in place. The second piece is part 2, which has a phase 1 and a phase 2, which is anticipated to be finished by the end of the calendar year this year. The first part of it, and their consultant will be available on Tuesday by Zoom, is working with WGI to look at how we create a mobility fee structure. In essence, as new development comes in, we would assess it based on impacts on mobility related to the type of use that it would be, whether residential or commercial. And we would create a fee structure as to what would be an appropriate charge, either by square foot or type of project, that the city could assess in furtherance of its mobility goals. Once that is done, the other part is to prioritize more officially the projects that we've identified and what our anticipated construction or implementation schedule would be, to try to gauge at how much money we would be hoping to collect through mobility fees on an annual basis, so we can have some idea of predictability of when those mobility projects would be implemented. The second part of this phase 2 is the creation of the required ordinance and interlocal agreements that have to be put in place so we can actually implement the fee itself. We do anticipate some reluctance, or a lot of reluctance possibly from the county, in our adopting our own fee. There is a interlocal group that's coming together to try to work out some sort of negotiated agreement such that municipalities can collect mobility fees on their own, while not necessarily totally wiping out the county's impact fees, which most of you know have been collected at the city for a long period of time, but very little of it actually comes back and is actually spent in the city. Lawsuits that were brought forth by Palm Beach Gardens and possibly others did result in a judgment that as long as the county was spending the money in regions associated with where the money is being collected, those fees were fine. However, none, to my knowledge, except for one small project, and Jamie might have a bit more information on it, none of the fees that have been collected in the city over the time since I've been here, which is almost 15 years, has actually been spent in the city. However, it's been spent in the region of which we fall, and that region goes all the way out to 441 in the Everglades.
Yeah.
So there will, WGI and a consultant will be available on Tuesday to answer more of your direct questions. But hopefully this will get us into a better framework where we can actually implement some, if not all, of the mobility projects that you've helped us prioritize over the past 2.5 years.
I have a question. What, if any, relationship does this have to the 25% parking reduction that we've been doing in the
It
past?
has nothing directly related, except that the mobility plan is part of our overall transportation goals under the comprehensive plan to limit or reduce the number of vehicle trips in the city, to facilitate and encourage other forms of mobility in the city, such as bikes, mopeds, golf carts, ride shares, Lyft, and Uber, and other mechanisms, because we know that we cannot necessarily increase our rights of way and vehicular car capacity, but we can have an influence on increasing the capacity of moving people around under other modes of transportation. And we spent some time talking about that as we put together the mobility plan. So they're not directly related. There is some indirect connection. I will mention that under our comp plan, it also mentions the city would have adopted by 2018 an overall traffic management plan. As you know, we haven't adopted that yet, and we're in 2025.
So we're having a workshop. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
We're having a workshop on the 28th of April, and I want to hopefully cover some transportation issues that have been identified when we began our comp plan rewrite in 2012 and 13, and then our update of the whole comp plan in 2017-18, and then how we're moving forward now. And that all somewhat is interrelated to how we are trying to encourage mixed-use development with a lower level of service and a lower parking requirement by managing it and putting it together with encouraging other ways to get around the city besides a reliance on just a car or a truck.
Oh, we can't forget people come from, we're hoping more people come from outside the city as well.
We do, and we do hope they will come by Tri-Rail, they will come by Uber, they will come by Lyft. They will maybe possibly come by Tri-Rail and then take Circuit. Since we did our original work in 2012 and then in 2017, there are a lot more modes of transportation available to people that were not available before. And so hopefully, as we move forward, we can encourage people to visit on Lake Worth Beach on a regular basis, but not necessarily come up by their own individual personal car.
Okay, thank you. I see a lot of hands up. I'm going to call Mr. Brown first.
Yeah, I just want to say, just in relation to the mobility fee that William was talking about, in regard to the impact fee from the county. I went back, I pulled the, and this has almost been a decade since they've done this, but they basically took 12 years, the county did, impact fees they collected from all the municipalities, and then how much of that money was actually put back into that particular municipality. And just going through some of these, like Boca Raton, they collected 9 million from them. They actually spent 15 million in Boca. Same thing with Boynton. 24 million was put back into Boynton. But when you scroll down to Lake Worth Beach, they collected just over 4 million from us, and it says they spent around 500,000 here.
So
And
not
and
big
you-
return.
But when you look at the two projects, one is 10th Avenue and Congress, so that's not even within our
That's not
city
even us.
limits. And the other was just Boutwell and 10th Avenue, which is $43,000. So
Well, if I
it's
may
not
interrupt,
beneficial to us.
That's
I'm
not a
sorry,
lot,
Jamie,
no.
but keep in mind the Boutwell 10th Avenue intersection is still not done.
Correct.
We've been waiting for that since before I got to the city.
So this is
Is
what
there
you're
anything we
seeing
can-
with, I was
Go
gonna say, if you're seeing with Palm Beach Gardens, West Palm, this is why everyone's kind of moving to try and do their own mobility fee, because
Mhm.
we're paying all these impact fees when these development projects come in, and that money just goes somewhere else in the county.
It's not there. Mr. McCoy had his hand up first, then Sigrid, then Malega.
Just very quickly, thank you, William, for the update on the mobility plan. My yardstick in all of this is, do people feel safer at the end of our investment, feel safer on alternative modes of transportation? Because that is probably the biggest limitation on people doing mobility other than by personal car, that people just don't feel safe getting around. And so I will be looking for measurable outcomes or projects that seem very likely to get measurable outcomes that increase that sense of safety. And it's kind of two-part, because one is actual safety. Our statistics are not very good for pedestrian and bicycle safety in Lake Worth. So there's the actual, and then there's the perceived safety. Both of those are an influence on whether people are willing to use alternate forms of transportation. So that's what I would be looking for. Will this move the needle on any of those things?
If I might add, one of the things that WGI did in working with us is, even though we asked for a mobility plan, they combined it and did a combined plan, mobility and safety. And and they will be there on Tuesday, and most of the projects involve a safety measure, if they're not only just a safety enhancement to encourage, let's say, a bicyclist feeling more safe on a particular roadway. And much of the survey work that was done did center on safety. And so, like I said, most of the projects, if not all, had a major component of safety related to them. Some of them are pretty much all safety, and some of them are, as we increase capacity, there's a safety enhancement. And Lisa and Angela, who will be there, can describe that in more detail, but we did focus, because the opportunity for grant monies, the safety component seems to be a much higher category for getting points toward an award than just mobility.
Good. Thank you for that effort.
Yeah, I was in the city last week, and they have, on the big avenues, they have it was wonderful. They have actual protected, bike lanes, which my fear is some bicyclist is going to fall down in my path. So I was very glad to see that. I'm wondering if we can't have, when Dixie Highway comes up again, something like that can't happen.
Where was that you were? I missed the city.
The city, New York City, the only city.
The city. Well, I didn't hear sorry, or I would have known.
Mr.
And Washington, D.C. is even better. It is amazingly. I did, when I was up there a few years ago for the city, I actually rented an electric bike and I think a scooter too. And it was amazing to see people in suits and ties moving around, and lots of them, and it felt very safe. It
Right.
felt like the cars knew about it and that the design of the roadways was awesome.
Mr. Segridge.
So it seems like the impact fees, the county's kind of taking them and we're not getting our fair share back. What guarantees do we have with the mobility fees if we implement our own that we are going to get those back? Would those entirely come to the city or would we still have the issue with the county?
Okay, well, that's probably going to be something we're going to have to deal with when we get to the negotiation standpoint, which is part of the last quarter of this calendar year, is the interlocal agreement we already have with the county, which gives them the power to collect impact fees. Our goal would be to, and at least, okay, so we're going to split the baby. Lake Worth Beach can collect the fees. We keep the fees. You can collect your portion of the fees at the county, but your collection amount may be less. In the perfect world, the county doesn't really collect impact fees anymore from city with city projects unless they have guaranteed that they are going to spend some money in the city. But the way we have to set up the collection process itself, it will have to be its own enterprise function so that the money that we collect from impact fees or mobility fee, and let's call it a mobility fee versus an impact fee if we could, that will stay in its own account. And then on an annual basis, very much like the Sustainable Bonus Program and Transfer Development Right Program, we will bring forward to the commission on an annual basis the projects that we, from the prioritized list, that we feel could be implemented up for that calendar year or fiscal year, and then what money would come out of the mobility fee. It will take a couple of years before that fund has a significant number of amount of funds in it to really do much of anything, except for some of the smaller safety projects that both the mayor and Commissioner McVoy talked about, because there are some smaller projects that aren't a huge expense related to safety.
So it's unclear at this time whether or not we've fully negotiated that out and will be receiving those fees like you're saying. That's to be negotiated, correct?
We have to negotiate it. However, in the worst case, the county still collects their impact fees. City of Lake Worth Beach creates its mobility fee and the developer pays both.
Okay.
And the mobility would be paid to the city.
Directly to the city as part of our building permit review process.
Okay, so the mobility fees are guaranteed to come to the city, is what you're saying?
If we adopt them, they will be for us, yes.
Okay, and what is your projected collections of mobility fees over the next 5 years when we get it in?
That's part of what this phase part 2 is about, is like what would be our goal, and that we can, that's part of our planning effort over the next 6 months or so, and then creating the associated fee. I would hope that we could generate several $100,000 a year. However, when we started this process 3 years ago, the development climate was much more conducive to development happening. I will caution that as of right now, development is becoming much more of a challenge because of the expense. As development becomes more expensive to implement, the building fee does go up. So consequently, the mobility fee might go up, because they will be related to maybe the cost of construction. But we do have several large projects that are on not permanent hold, but are sort of in a holding pattern because we really don't know what's happening with construction costs.
So you say several $100,000, like 200,000, 300,000 in a year, or, you know?
Well, until we get into what we're approving to do, I don't want to go out on a limb and say we're going to guarantee this and we do much less. I would like the consultant who helps put together our fee and looking at our development history about how many units are brought online each year, how many square feet of development is actually CO'd, and then they can give you a range based on if you adopt this type of fee structure, this is what you might collect. If you adopt a different type of fee structure, it could be more. We have not had a fee, and so I don't want to promise what we can't deliver. But that will be part of the study that WGI and its consultant will be doing, and they will be addressing that direct question you asked.
Okay, but we have to pay several $100,000 to figure that out.
Yes, it's a rather complicated formula to make sure it's legally defensible.
And then
Ms. Malika.
I just have
Mr. Cedric, the money, we already do have the money to cover both parts of it in our Sustainable Bonus Incentive Trust account. So, but you could spend that money on something different if you'd like, but the money is there to complete this project.
That was my last quick question. Just in looking at the financials that have already been provided, I didn't see anything with the Sustainable Bonus Incentive Program Fund. I'll send you an email. I just had a question on that. So
There's a little over $400,000 in that fund right now, but there are no projects except finishing up the open space recreation master plan, which has already been encumbered. And we took some of that money for, and I can't remember, I'll have to go back and look at it. We have 2 projects that are imminently coming. If they move forward to building permits, which is kind of where they are, there likely will be another $100 and some thousand being put into that Sustainable Bonus Trust Fund before those permits are actually issued.
yeah.
And William?
Ms. Malek, I'm sorry, Jamie?
William,
Do you
since you mentioned the amount in that fund, can you please cover real quick what can and can't be used with that money? Because I don't want people thinking we can
Good idea.
transfer that into other stuff.
The Sustainable Bonus Trust Fund does have limitations on what it can be spent on. It is basically city infrastructure that can include buildings, roads, public enhancements, not filling potholes. It's like new infrastructure. It can be used to subsidize and encourage affordable housing. We adopted many of the enhancement projects identified under the USGBC's LEAD program for neighborhoods. And so it could even include like public art, further landscaping. We did take some money, I think, from at one point and encourage the building of some planting of some trees. It's a large variety of things that we can spend the money on, but it does have to be approved by the city commission, regardless of what the amount is. Staff does not have any latitude on that. So even if we have like a project for $5,000 to do something, that project has to be authorized and approved by you as the mayor and commission before it can be expended.
Okay, Ms. Malega.
Thank you. I was going to have some of the same questions as Commissioner Segrich, but I also want to, since we're talking about this mobility, I had my meeting with Joan at the CRA last week, and part of their coming budget is they want to expand Circuit to 12th Avenue South and 12th Avenue North. And part of that is going to be them asking us to continue our contribution to the circuit to make sure that we can meet the needs of our residents. So, you know, I think that as a community, we are doing really good work as a city. A lot of the people outside of downtown don't know about Circuit, and I think that we just need to be a little more vocal with that conversation. And maybe in one of our newsletters or one in our electric bill, put the Circuit in there with the app and the little discount code that we give everybody. But I just want to make sure that we all know that there will be an ask again for expansion dollars for Circuit coming up as part of keeping the city more mobile.
Well, I believe they did approve the 12th to 12th South to 12th North. Are they going to be asking us for a larger contribution?
Joan is unsure at this point, so we'll see. They're not adding a car, which is concerning to me. I'd rather them add a car because now the wait time is supposed to be under 10 minutes. If they're doing 12th to South and 12th North, bad traffic, I'm like, what can we find out what the cost to add another cart, you know, golf cart or another car? Maybe keep the golf carts just in the downtown and use the car outside of the, you know, the downtown corridor. But I know that that's part of the mobility conversation that I want to make sure that we continue with. Because
I have a little concern about, you know, when they started, it was like they were going to get advertising and offset a lot of the costs or a portion. And I don't know, I guess I haven't just seen the numbers of how that has worked.
She gave us an update 2 months ago, I think it was, Jamie. Maybe you can correct me.
Yeah, but it was not significant. I was not impressed.
And what the ridership was, because, you know, it's all based on how many people ride, and at $1 a ride, you know, I mean, they're not really going to make a lot of money, especially when kids are free. So there was a demand and a request, and the community said, you know, it's, you know, I want to use it, but it stops at 7th Avenue North. You know, how can it...
I wonder if at some point can we consider raising the price of the.
Well, what I'm asking is the money that we have set aside, William, in this fund, could we use that towards an issue like this, like towards this mobility?
I have my hand raised, but let me correct the mistake that I made. I made originally the parking and the artificial turf discussion was scheduled for the 28th. Is actually May 15th to help Shayla out. So I misspoke on the 28th. I'm trying to keep dates straight. Is challenging here. Yes, the sustainable bonus money could be spent to enhance Circuit.
Okay, thank you. So maybe that's something that we can talk about, you know, using that fund for some of the offset of circuit. That's all.
Thank you. If anything else from staff? That we should talk about for the agenda? Silence. A hush fell over the crowd. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Waters, for being here. We appreciate it. And I'm sure they'll, go ahead. Mr. McVoy?
Are we sure staff is done? You had a request.
No, I was just gonna finish up with him and then we can.
Yeah, go ahead with
All right,
finishing
and then I'm
up
gonna
with
go
staff.
district by district. Mr. Waters, they're gonna be doing a presentation on Tuesday, correct, about the mobility? They'll be here.
They're going to be your guests.
This is, as I look through it, there's a few questions I have that, maybe we can shake out in the future, but mostly about some other things. So thank you very much. Good. Take your doggies. Go get your doggies fixed. Okay, let's go district 1. Do you have any issues you'd like to bring up?
Just a question in regards to, I had asked Jamie in the agenda for next week, there was the, how are we going to talk about appointees for our boards? And I know that Mr. Perry had sent us what we used to do before we got on board and then how the current commission did it the last time. And I just wanted to talk about that this morning because I'm confused on who wants to do what. Some of the people who are still sitting on the current commission are the ones who advocated for, us doing the interviews and the Saturday process, or are we going to go back to appointees per seat? But this is something that we really need to do because I would like to have the appointments done before budget conversation because I'd like to lean on electric utility and the business advisory boards and in regards to our budget decisions and what they'd like to see in the future. So I just wanted to kind of hear everybody's thought process on moving forward with the appointees. Just everybody in favor of doing appointee per seat, or what is the plan? That's all, ma'am.
Good question. Mr. Misegwich.
I don't have an opinion yet on appointee by seat or by consensus, but I do think it would be a very good idea for us to have these boards fully appointed before budgeting comes in, especially boards like the CRA. I'd like to see that happen.
Yeah, I've asked the clerk, and I think they've already provided it, but just, where are we at with all the different boards? Who's up? What's the status of the people on the boards so we can know what's up, or and what changes we can make. There's a theory that says we want to get more people, more citizens involved in boards. So if you're on a board, does it mean you're forever on the board, or do we replace people so that there's more people becoming involved in the actual city workings?
Well,
so
when are we going to make the decision on if we're going to do open appointees or go back to each seat appointing a person? I guess that's my question is, can we make a decision? Can we get a consensus on who wants to do what so we can start moving this process forward?
Well, I don't know that we can have, it's quarter of at this point. I don't know that we have time. We've got 3 more districts to go, so we kind of limit our time, but I think it's an excellent question. And maybe we could talk about it at the, if our meeting doesn't go too crazy, how long? Ms. Ma'am, I'm going to call on you because you haven't said anything yet today.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking about what Vice Mayor Malika was saying, and maybe, this could go on Tuesday's agenda. Doesn't look too scary. Maybe we could add that. It doesn't seem like it would be something that would need a whole lot of backup.
Right.
I don't know.
We could do it under commission comments.
We can do it under commission comments. But I'll wait my turn until District 3 comes. I'll let District 2 go, but I do have some things I want to bring up.
Okay, Mr. McFoy, we are very stressed for time. Do you have something quick that we can talk about? A couple minutes for all of us?
Yeah, one, I think, I hope that when we come to grant agreement for the Children Fiscal Agent for Healthier Lake Worth Beach, that we will talk a little bit, what is our policy and procedure as a city for granting money to nonprofits? Because there are many nonprofits that do honorable things in our community. Do we have a procedure that any nonprofit can apply for money from us, or is there no procedure? It's just who happens to ask us? I think we need to be clear,
Chris, this came
What-
into play when they came forward and did the code enforcement update that they showed us all the money that they were helping spend with code. That's where this money came from, and it's taken 8 months for us to get this process cleared.
okay, I still stand with my question. My other item is, I would like consensus from, I've heard at previous meetings that most people on the commission do not seem to be very happy with the arrangement of developers being able to build a 100-apartment building, tell us that they're going to put in a cafe or a clothing store, you know, a little boutique or something, and now all of a sudden they only have 75 apartments that are contributing cars into the city magically because we allow them this reduction. I've heard that people agree that that doesn't make sense. And I've asked for a number of months that we put that on an agenda. We had it on an agenda, we had comments for it, and it got taken off. I would like to suggest and request from my colleagues that we put it back on the agenda for Tuesday and address it as quickly as possible. We are also in the process of approval of a project that's one of our largest projects that will contribute, it can reasonably be expected at 50,000 visitors a year to contribute a good deal of cars onto our streets. And we really need to think about this in that context as well. So my request, I'm looking for consensus from my colleagues that we put the discussion of changing the 25% reduction minimum for shared parking, that we put that back on the agenda for Tuesday. I believe you mentioned, Mayor, a hush fell over the crowd.
You're muted.
I'm muted?
No, the mayor is.
Oh,
My dog was barking. Ms.
Ah.
Waters, we have, or Mr. Brown, we have a workshop scheduled on this 25% thing, right?
Correct. So we have two workshops. One is May 15th, which would be the 25%, which would also cover the LDRs. The other workshop is, the other one for the 15th was artificial turf. And then the 29th was short-term rentals and the vacant property registry. Now, what I'd mentioned to some of you earlier on this week was with all 5 of your schedules and then existing city meetings and CRA and all this other stuff going on, we always look to find the first dates that all of you are available. And I'd mentioned that if you guys collectively say that, hey, if 4 of us are available and 1 isn't, and you guys want to move forward with a meeting, then we can obviously do that. But from a staff perspective, just to be respectful, we want to make sure we're not scheduling meetings when, based on your calendars, someone's out of town, someone's on vacation, someone's got, you know, a speech they're doing somewhere, whatever it happens to be. We want to make sure that we're being respectful in scheduling these meetings when everyone is available. And the first date that we could get where that was the case was May 15th for the first one, special meeting, and then May 29th for the second special meeting. Because to cover all 4 of these in one meeting is just not possible. It is just too much. So we had to break it into 2 special meetings.
And I haven't left yet, but I'd like to correct 2 things that were maybe misspoken about the 25% reduction. Yes, you have to have a mixed use project. It's available for the core area of the city only, unless it's a planned development, and then it could be applied somewhere else, but that's at discretion. And under its provisions, regardless of how much the 25% reduction results in parking, you cannot have any less than 1 parking space for each residential unit and at least 0.8 parking spaces for all anticipated employees. So and in downtown, we also have the in lieu of thing. So between now and when we talk about it, the reduction is not as drastic as people have been led to believe. You still have to have at least 1 for each residential unit and 0.8 spaces for each employee. And then we can go with the rest of it.
There's no
and how it
visitors parking.
applies. Pardon?
There's no visitors parking. There's no handicap parking added into that. So I think, Mr. McVoy, we're going to be workshopping this. So I don't see adding this on. I mean, unless people disagree with me, I don't think it would be helpful to add it on Tuesday.
Okay, I'm just requesting it. It's been
Okay, thank
requested
you.
for a long time.
Okay, District 3,
Um,
quiet this morning.
well, am I muted? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm just a little bit concerned, about we continue to get emails, from people about dumping and about, homeless camps. And I'm just concerned that we're not making any progress on that. And I hate to say that, but I'd like to have I guess an update of some sort where, we have the constituent has emailed us about, she lives basically in front of in front of like the G Street buildings that have car repair, and they're doing car repair at like midnight and with all of the loud, um, machines and whatnot, and there's parking all along in front of these places that doesn't have parking along the tracks. And I'm just concerned that well, we've talked to them, but they're not stopping. And I would hate to live where she lives and have that all day long, knowing it's not legal, but it happens anyway. And I'm just kind of frustrated for her and wanting to have a little bit more teeth or find out what we have on the books and how we can make sure that it's enforced. It has to do with business licenses, because a lot of the businesses that are doing this don't even have licenses. Hours of operation, why are they doing loud noises in the middle of the night? There's a lot of things that, it's quality of life, and that's a problem for me and a problem for a lot of our residents. Yesterday we had an email from people about the homeless encampment in 13th Avenue South. Well, they sent out the homeless intervention team, and he went there and they weren't there, and he said, okay, they're not there, but that doesn't mean that they're not coming back, and it doesn't mean that what this woman is saying is not awful. So not to right now, but I just want to put it out there that I feel like we need to make more of an effort to be very clear. What are we doing regarding homeless camps? What are we doing regarding businesses without licenses? What are we doing regarding operational hours of the day where, machines can be run? Things like that. And if we could have an update at one of the upcoming commission meetings, I think that would be really helpful. And I want these residents to be heard, and not just heard, but responded to. Because they shouldn't have to email the commission saying, I keep emailing and nobody's responding. I keep emailing and nothing's getting done. That's not, it is our job because we can advocate for the residents, but they should be able to contact their own city and have at least a response.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Mr. Brown, I see you I see Mr. Perry and Mr. Brown taking copious notes.
Noted.
Okay, yeah, I agree. And some of those things we can, we have, yeah, it's a good question. I also got an email just this morning about, the homeless across the Gulf Stream, again, our resources are limited, but I would needs to be, and people need, you're right. People need to feel like we're listening to them and doing what we can to make the situation better.
Mayor, can I just quickly add on? I would like to put forward, if I can have some consensus from you guys for a future agenda discussion of, having people that are coming in the city doing feedings, which I don't have a problem with that, but they need to have a permit. We need to know who's coming, especially if they're using city property. I know there's a church that has a thing every Friday called the Lord's Lunch, and it's at South Bryant Park, and it's in our pavilion. But we don't have a permit for them. We don't know who they are. We don't know what they're bringing. They don't reserve it, and that's not okay. So, Mr. Brown, if the other people here agree, the other commissioners, can we put a discussion on that to start to get that taken care of?
I have no objections to that. I think Ms. Lenahan, I think there's some case law that came out about that, but I think we should definitely talk about it for sure.
Mr. Segrich, Ms. Maliga, Mr. McVoy?
Okay.
I'm happy to have a discussion about it. It should include what are allowed uses of our public parks, and I think it would not be a bad idea to have a reading of the appropriate section out of the Bible of how one treats strangers and those in need at the front end of it.
Well, that's
I-
very interesting, but we have, we are secular here.
May
Um,
6th.
and I don't think that she's suggesting that we don't let it happen, but there's, when they leave a mess behind, we should be able to call and say, hey, clean up your mess.
Fine.
Is everyone okay putting this on the May 6th agenda,
I am.
this discussion?
If we have time, sure, if it's not a crazy agenda. And
I
we're
mean,
running
that's still a
very
month
close.
away, so I know there's not a lot of that agenda as of right now. So,
Thank you.
And from our new commissioner, Mr. Segrich, what you got?
Okay,
Anything?
try to keep it quick. I would like to get one thing on the agenda in the future, and it does have to do with what Commissioner May mentioned. Basically looking at an examination and realignment of PBSO's policies with current state law and the needs of the city, specifically dealing with HB 1365. I've been getting the emails. I've personally made calls for service, and there seems to be a little bit of discussion or misunderstanding of what those new laws are and what the policies that PBSO has. And I think aligning those to what we want as a commission and for the residents would be a good idea. And I'd like that.
Have you had a conversation with PBSO yet with Captain Karn?
It's coming up, but I've had several conversations with various sergeants on the topic, and I've gotten mixed messages across the board as to what their policy is and what they're enforcing or not enforcing.
Okay. Any problems with that? No, I see no problems with that. So add it to the list.
And then the other thing was, and I don't know if this would be an agenda item, but I'd like to be receiving at least some periodic update on all of the Live Local projects that are going on within the city, because these projects.
If there are any.
There's definitely are. I know of a few, and they just kind of pop up. You hear about them not through the normal channels because they don't have to come before the commission. But I think, they do impact the city, and they are working with our departments. It would be good to get an update on what's going on with those.
I think Mr. Perry and Mr. Brown have taken notes.
I agree with that.
absolutely.
Yeah. No problem.
And to even stretch a little bit further, even any project, like what are they building at the old pharmacy on the corner of Lucerne and Federal? That would be nice to know. And we
I
got
think
people asking us, and I can't answer that. I don't know.
Yeah, we
So
don't.
that would be great if we had an update of what are the projects going on, at least
think
in
that's
the downtown.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a shared office thing. Ms. Flagg, I see you trying to say something.
Yeah, it's shared office space. The CRA did an update on that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, but I think that you're right. If people do say, hey, what's going on there? Just so that we know, so we have some answers. We are so close. I just have a couple, Mr. Segrich, are you done? Okay. Yesterday, Commissioner May and I went to the Hispanic Community Leaders seminar. It was good. A lot of things that we did not know that we sort of talking to you, Anthony. There's a lot of programs that the PBSO is running that we didn't even know about. So we met afterwards with our with Captain Karn and Lieutenant Cohen and some leaders from the churches. So we're going to be starting we'll give an update about a little more specifically, but it was very interesting to hear that there are programs that we're not taking advantage of, that to include like the churches in the town, to get everybody together, to really more engage our community. It was a good program. It was interesting because Sheriff Bradshaw gave a really good speech about immigration, and we're not ICE, all that, but he didn't have an interpreter. So a lot of the people that were there probably had no idea what he was talking about. But it was exciting because it gave us, I think, Mimi, who's gone, gave us some ideas about how innovative ways to address the community and concerns that they have about safety and business and that sort of thing. So we are out of time. We're pretty much out of time. The other thing I did, and I spoke with our PBSO, and I know that Commissioner May did as well. the downtown, the presence of PBSO downtown, we need to up the presence of PBSO downtown. There's the blanket guy we've been getting a lot of complaints about. They're in touch with his family. Actually, they know who he is. I've not seen him, but so what? I think that for against safety, you know, talking about safety, Mr. McCoy, I think that the citizens of our city really do deserve to have more of a presence of the police downtown, whether it's walking the beat or bicycles or whatever, but they are going to be meeting and talking more about that.
I
Because
agree.
it is a problem. Yeah, so we, you know, because it is a problem downtown. People are sitting on the you know, the outside things, and I think with the police presence, it would be a deterrent for those folks to be doing it, even if they can't arrest them or charge them or anything. At least people know that we're paying attention. Real quick, Mr. Segrich?
I just forgot the people from the Discover the Palm Beaches wanted to come and give a presentation to us. I think that would be very informative.
Mhm. Sure. Have them contact Mr. Brown if you're in touch with them. Okay? Okay, is that, oh, he's saying, all right. Well, I see it's 10 o'clock. Tomorrow morning is the Victim Rights walk down in Bryant Park. I think we'll be there like 8:15. Oh my God. And it's really great because this is an annual event. It's been going on for years, but this is the first time that it's been brought to Lake Worth Beach. And the new state attorney is really likes Lake Worth, is interested in us. So I think if we show up, it would be very helpful. So
Where in Bryant Park? At the
I guess it's the
pavilion?
band shell, probably the band shell.
And 8:15?
Yes, I think it starts at 8:30. But we're supposed, you know, so 8:30 really is the hard time, which I'm
Thank you
thrilled
for
about.
the-
As everyone knows, I'm such a morning person.
We'll bring coffee, right?
Thank you. I appreciate that. So everybody have a great day, and maybe see you in the morning, and maybe, but definitely